Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Natty News Daily podcast. This is James. I am joined by Dan today, which is exciting. We don't get the gang back together all that frequently anymore, but we're also joined by guests, but also close friends, but also clients of mine, Christine Reinhardt and Sarah Ose. Welcome to the podcast, guys. This is going to be a fun chat. I just want to turn it over to you guys and just for the viewers, for the listeners. This one's going to be a little bit informal. Really, what we're trying to do is kind of recap both of the athletes' last prep, simply because, yes, they were coached by me. Yes, they did very similar shows, but they had vastly different and vastly unique experiences throughout that. And I kind of wanted to pick apart their brains and their thought process and their experiences with that because I think it'll be a good learning opportunity for a lot of young athletes. So, guys, welcome. This will be fun. I don't know who wants to talk first. I know Sarah can talk for hours, so
Yeah,
let's start with Christine. How you doing, Christine?
I'm doing good. We're just about 20 weeks post Worlds now, so very much into improvement season and things are going well.
Mhm. Which is funny because like 20 weeks when you're prepping seems like not that long. 20 weeks into an off season, like it seems like a lifetime ago now that it was Worlds because we're just like so far removed from hopefully the stress of all of that now and we just can decompress a little bit. But yeah, 20 weeks, that's a decent amount of time for sure. How, but before we go into too much detail, because I know like I want to already start like I'm trying to hold myself back. Sarah, the 20 weeks for you have been different than the 20 weeks for Christine. How are
Yeah.
you doing on your end?
Yeah. And it's hard because I think there's some background because this whole time with you and with this team has really been new for me from the beginning. And so when I reached out to you back in right before Worlds of 2024, I was desperate for my headspace was a mess and just needed someone else to bounce something off of. And I remember you saying, if you need me to bring you into Worlds, I'm here.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, I can do this by myself. I can figure this out. But I'm glad I did. We did Worlds, we finished it. And like you said, you're like, your next time's going to be even better or something like that. And
Mhm.
it really was. I mean, it was a good experience. We did a little bit. I was ready to jump in right away into competing again. There wasn't even a question. This year, right now, I'm sitting in a very happy spot. I really love where I feel my strength is back. Things are good. But yeah, I mean, so there was a lot of really good things that happened during that prep, and to be able to do it with my teammate, who I had known Christine a long time before. She's the one that introduced me to you, but we had already had a relationship and were just in love with everything bodybuilding, and so we just connected a long time ago. So our prep was so much fun, and you'll have to cut me off because there's so many places I want to go, but like we just geeked out every single day and we still do every single day. We are talking to each other and geeking out over like food or how beautiful my rice cakes are or how much food she
Ugh.
fucking gets because I don't get that much food. And but
Mhm.
all of these conversations that we had in prep, like I just one, I wasn't able to be on stage with a teammate like that, to have a team there during all of these times that we were competing, to room with someone that you totally um just we were just like sisters and we're very
Mhm.
different. But
Mhm.
we just connect very, very well in bodybuilding and both have this mental love and passion for it. And it just was like the easiest thing ever.
Yeah, yeah. And like you said, there's so many different routes we could take with this.
Yeah.
You mentioned the food. First off, your rice cakes are horrifying to me. There's too many things on there. I have to guess what they are half the time.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm not on board with you on the rice cakes. Make them simple, please. Some jam, some honey, walk away. That's it. Um,
No liverwurst.
no.
Liverwurst, beans,
Oh,
a little honey on top.
God, it's awful. It's truly
Dan,
terrifying.
Dan gets it. I know Dan appreciates it.
I can appreciate it. Yes, I like some weird food combos and yeah.
But I feel like Dan, you separate your foods at least, where it's like here is my fruit, here is my vegetable, like I've got my
I'm
bowl of
very much a
mushrooms.
separated food person.
And
Yes.
Sarah's just throwing beans on everything and like savory and sweet, and I'm just like, God,
Yep.
stop, please. Anyway, if we're talking food, the thing that I want to preface with the listeners, neither of you are sedentary people.
Yeah.
Both of you are people that are highly active to the point that at different times in prep, I had to actively pull you back or ask you to stop being so active, right?
Yeah.
So it's not a difference of this person eats less food because they have a sedentary lifestyle. And like Jeff Alberts talks about that all the time, right? Like his food when he diets is very low because he's a full-time online bodybuilding coach and like he has to actively get on his bike or go for a walk to burn calories.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he's literally sitting in a chair all day. Sarah does like 16K steps a day. Christine does the same thing. And like both of them enjoy being aerobically
Right.
fit. So they do some of this for psychological health, like all of that, right? So that's not the difference. But there is quite literally a difference of like 500 or so calories between each of you when you diet that for the life of me, I can't honestly explain because it's in the reverse of how you would think, right? No discredit to Christine.
Mhm.
You have less muscle mass than Sarah. You're a taller individual with slightly less muscle mass. To the point that Sarah's, and I was looking at these numbers earlier, Sarah's leanest competition weight was your peak off-season weight, right? So there's like a 20 to 25 pound difference between you two at either phase, but yet Christine, you eat dramatically more food than Sarah, the
Yeah.
more muscular individual with the equal amount of activity, and I just can't explain it. So talk me through how that how that feels for you two comparing, but also just like some of the nuance of what you guys have picked up along this process when it comes to food and nutrition.
I already see the
I'll
salt in
let
Sarah's eyes.
I'll let you go, Christine, first.
No, so all of those points are valid and accurate. And Sarah and I often call ourselves yin and yang because on paper, yes, we're both women in our late 40s who are moms, who have full-time jobs, we're active. Like there's so many similarities, but then there's so many areas where we are just completely the opposite. And so sometimes I would say, "Oh, wish I had this that you have," and she would say the reverse back to me. Well, I wish I could do this that you have. So, for example, Sarah's got a ton of muscle. I'm like, I wish I could have as much muscle as you, and she would say, I wish I could have as much food as you. And then on the flip side, it's like it's easier for her right now being in off season putting down the food where I'm like, oh my, I can't eat all this food. So like it's just two ends of a spectrum. And so it's just interesting to see like where we're in alignment and very similar, and then these other instances where we're just complete opposites.
Mhm.
So right now in my improvement season, I'm struggling to get food down, and she's just like, I can't wait for James to give me more food. So, and the same was in prep. Like I had a lot of food and it was fine, and I was never hungry. And then Sarah's getting hunger cues all the time. So there's just so many differences between us, and it's actually kind of really interesting to just compare
Yeah.
and contrast and just follow each other and be like, this is what's happening to me, this is what's happening to you. And it's so different.
Mhm.
Well, and we would like, because we had similar check-ins. So I would be like, I bet James is going to do this, this, and this. And she would do the same to me. Like, I bet he's not going to do this, or he's going to. So we would always like kind of try and learn from, because we learned a lot from each other. And the reality is like, looks different for every single competitor.
Mhm.
Like there is no way, and I've been with coaches that will cookie cutter plans or do things the same way without changing or modifying when needed. And that's where I would want to take over. And so it was really neat to really experience that with a teammate who is a bodybuilder, not a figure competitor, but a bodybuilder who had to get as lean, had to get super lean. That's hard to do, and to see what she got. But then I was like, oh, well, I'm blessed here and she's blessed there. And so we are just very much, just learning was great to go through that and not feel like you're alone. And like we're both workhorses, like you said. Like I don't need motivation. She doesn't need motivation, but just to go through these experiences together, like I learned a lot from that, and I know what it's going to look like next time, and I'm not worried. So I think being with someone besides just having a coach where you can bounce things off is so great.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, even if it's not a teammate, there's so many people within this community that we're all interconnected with, and you can just reach out.
Yeah.
Like Christine, for example, you and Mike, right? Like there's
Yeah.
not really a formal relationship there, but Mike reaches out to you and is like, hey, keep
Yeah.
my head on straight. And it works because we lean on each other, we support each other. Like me, Dan, Leroy, same thing. Like when we're in prep, we can kind of tell when someone's struggling, and it's like, yo, like we're here, talk, please.
Mhm.
So it is a very challenging sport, very fun sport, but you do learn a lot about yourself, and it is definitely something that like you can't do it completely solo, at least not to a high level, in my opinion. I
Yeah.
think you have to lean on other people. Um, and kind of coming back to you said like the cookie cutter. Yeah, I mean, I think we've all seen it. I think we've all heard horror stories of it. If I would have tried to do that with you guys, I mean, I didn't know what I was going to do. And this maybe people will be like, well, you're a bad coach. Some of these decisions were like to the hour, to the day, to the week,
Yeah.
right? Like, yeah, I have an overarching, like, here's our timeline, here's kind of the phases I want you to be in. But if I've planned, all right, at this date, we're going to hit a diet break and you're not where you need to be, sorry, we got to change the plan.
Yeah.
Or hey, we're already too lean. You're struggling. I know we said we are going to hit our diet break in 5 weeks, but like you got to do it now. Otherwise, the wheels are going to fall off. So it's funny because I know you guys were guessing and you guys were messaging me like, oh, I bet you he's going to increase my food or decrease my food.
Mhm.
You kind of learned my thought process a little bit, but some of that was kind of just like I had to sit in it and really be like, what do they really need like right now? Especially Sarah, we could talk the horror stories of your water retention. That's like there's
Yeah.
there's no cookie cutter for that. There's no protocol for that. It's like in this moment, in this second, what does she need from me? Physiologically, emotionally, all of the above, So
Mhm.
there's so much that goes into it.
Well, and I like it's so funny because I had no clue you were scared shitless, like you said. Like I just assumed when you said, "Let me know if you want me to bring you into Worlds," the confidence that came from that statement, that's kind of what pushed me over into saying, "Okay, well, like, can I really mess this up that bad if I go to this person I know nothing about? Like, I might as well. I've done crazier shit. Like, let's just." Because I wasn't going to not do worlds. But you said this is what we're going to do. And then the same thing with the water retention. Like that was nuts and horrifying,
Mhm.
absolutely horrifying. And I've been there before. I don't think that I was so tuned into my system or my body or my environment to know like that's what was happening at that time. I just was like, well, I'm just getting fat. And that happened very, very fast and what's happening. And it is like I am an endurance athlete. And so what I wanted to do was just burn my system into the ground. And that was like
Mhm.
just totally opposite. But I had no clue that you were feeling that way or thought that way. I was just like, he knows what he's doing. Let's, we'll figure it out. But it was neat to hear, like, after all that, like you asked questions, you needed
Mhm.
help, and you're a human like everybody, like we all are. And
Mhm.
that's nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's the way that I try and coach and portray myself is like if I don't know something, I'm going to go learn it
Yeah,
because it's going to help me and it's going to help future clients.
right.
And I will admit when I don't know something, unlike certain individuals that have that complex where they have to see themselves as like a superior figure or, an
Yeah,
elite. And for those that don't know what I'm referencing, Sarah, you gained what, 7 pounds of water in like 2 days
yeah. It
on
was
Do you have
like
those
crazy.
right.
photos? You posted those, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Those photos
And
are
a lot of people
intense.
thought I had like binged eat. And I'm like, please, like,
Mhm.
no, I did not. Like, you don't know what kind of job I do. You have no clue about my life. And I think people jump, especially to conclusions on like social media when they don't know the whole story. And I carry a lot every day.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
when you're already stressed with prep, then, when things are hard at work, like that stuff comes out or life, I mean, I've
Mhm.
always carried stress in my water retention.
Mhm. Yeah.
Even
So
now, it's like, that's how I hold it.
absolutely. Yeah. So like 6 to 7 pounds of water weight, literally as we started peak week. So scrap that peak plan we had, right? Meanwhile, you've got Christine over here just cruising along.
Yeah.
And just the whole time was, keep things moderate. You're already lean. We don't need to dig. Like just just keep on cruise control, and I'm just throwing every variable out of Sarah's program. So it was interesting. It was a little bit of trial by fire, but now that you've done that, like physiologically, you know what's going on, you know
Yeah.
what you need to make happen, but it's like, how do we make that happen? And some of those decisions, if we're going to dive into that, like specifically, um, like you were doing sauna, right?
I was doing what?
You were doing a sauna, right? To like
Yeah.
sweat things out, right?
Hmm.
Did that have a massive impact 5 days later? Probably not a ton, but in that moment, I could tell psychologically, emotionally, you felt like you needed to be doing
Yeah.
something actively to help yourself.
Yeah.
And that was it. Where in prior preps and with other athletes, maybe that's when you would have been, I need to diet harder, I need to do more
Right.
cardio, and you lean into that stress, where in reality, we need to pull you out of that environment as much as possible. Drop cardio, drop steps, do things that make you feel better, in a better mindset, add food back in. And then you can get into some of like the supplementation that we did that maybe helps with a little bit of like water and de-stressing and antihistamines to drive down that like reaction that's going on. But a lot of it was just how do we remove as much stress as possible and not dive in harder and hashtag grind it out.
Well, and that's where like Christine too, like that's why your buddies in bodybuilding are super important because especially someone that's prepping at the same time as you. Like, and we had mentioned like even watching like Eric Helms and some of the guys, they had prep timelines like us. And so we were watching their struggles. And when I was going through all these things, when I was struggling, she tended to be in a more calmer state. And so having someone to be able to talk to through that was also super calming and helpful for that,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
it's hard when you can't control some of that stuff.
Yeah. And I do want to turn it back to you, Christine, because we kind of briefly like we skimmed over this where we know Sarah was going through a lot on the work side with stress. She saw the actual physiologic changes with the water retention. Her food had to go low. Like I had to push Sarah hard. You had a much more streamlined approach. Changes were taken at a kind of a slower rate. Things were a little bit more predictable, but that doesn't negate the fact that you were still prepping, you were still suffering, and you got inside out peeled better than most male athletes, right? So like, yes, you were dieting on food that like I might gain weight eating some of the food that you were eating, but you were still losing weight, you were still in a deficit. And like the research would say that like simply by being in a deficit, you trigger some of those physiologic changes. So it's not like you were just fine, right? Like you were suffering just as much as any other athlete. So talk me through some of that experience.
So the interesting part was like in total, we said we started prep in January and it ended up being 46 weeks. So I
Mhm,
was locked in to the gram for 46 weeks. So
mhm,
the first 2 months was a
Harder than
bit
that,
of
but
an the first 2 months was kind of an experiment because we tried a dieting strategy that we hadn't done before, and it
mhm.
really didn't work. Like I lost 2 pounds in 2 months, and that rate
Yeah.
of loss in prep is just it's defeating, right? So we're like, okay,
Mhm,
we're not doing that anymore. But we had a long timeline. We had the time to do it. It was an experiment we both agreed to try. It didn't
mhm,
work. Okay, so we collect the data on that. But yes, there were still many, many more weeks ahead. So for me, the biggest challenge was being extremely patient because my rate of loss was very slow. I ended up in total losing about 25 pounds across 46 weeks.
mhm,
So let's just say half a pound a week. And that is slow and steady, and you have to stick to the plan. And it was necessary in many ways, I think, because I am a smaller human. And so in our minds, I think we were not willing to sacrifice a single gram of lean tissue if we could possibly help it. So keeping the
yeah,
food high, keeping the rate of loss quite conservative, it just requires a lot of sitting and waiting and being patient. So there were some times where I felt like, oh man, I'm not going to be ready in time. This is moving so damn slow. Like, how will I be ready in time? And that was one of the things that I was reflecting on about prep was like I don't know how you figured out the timeline. I don't know how more than a year in advance you knew exactly what my stage weight would be for all 3 shows that I did. You predicted it to the pound, and we landed on it on the day that it mattered every single time. So the way that you were able to like do the pushing and the pulling and the just pulling out the magic, I don't know how you did it, but I had refeeds, which I didn't have in my prior prep. So that was amazing. I had a full 2 week diet break in the middle of the summer when I went to my family cabin, which was amazing. So it was just a very long, drawn out process that required a ton of patience, I guess
Mhm.
would be a good way to sum it up.
Yeah, yeah. And there are athletes where that is appropriate for, and there are athletes that just would not work for, right? You, if people follow you, which most listeners probably do at this point, I would hope. If not, go follow Christine. You are someone like Dan who is locked in all the time. If I tell you drop 5 grams, you drop 5 grams from this food. If I tell you add 1,000 steps, you add 1,000 steps to the point where I have literally our goal this off season has been breaking that a little bit and forcing you to be in some semblance more flexible, enjoy more social things so that you can find a little bit more balance. But the athlete who can, without adding stress to their life, who preferentially is dialed in off season, in prep, doesn't matter. That's someone who I can take that very long drawn out approach and be patient with because that doesn't add stress for them. Like if I were to tell some younger prep athletes like, hey, you're going to diet for 46 weeks, they would fire me immediately. But for you, it wasn't we're in off season, in season prep. It literally was just like, what factors do I need to modify on this week? All right, what do I need to modify next week? There's no flip that gets switched. It's just always on, right? So that works. Sarah, we found we need to condense a little bit, right? We need to allow you to have more of that flexibility, live the life that you want to live, just get jacked as possible in the off season. And we found that when we dieted you, your body crushed it. There was that little sticking point where we had to kind of like push a little bit harder to gain that momentum
Mhm.
again. But once you started rolling and you hit that theoretical stage weight, there's a very short window of time for you.
Yeah.
And if we tried to drag it out, regardless of what fatigue management strategies we did, it just ended up getting worse and worse and worse. So, and that's where you don't know that until you've prepped. You don't know that until you've coached a client. That's where, having these longer coaching relationships is very beneficial. But Dan, this is something that we've talked about and Leroy like fully experienced where it's almost like for a lot of athletes, there's like a 6 week window where they can nail 100% look, and anything outside of that is just you cannot recreate it for some reason.
Well,
And,
and
and
that's how my season was. Like we had Calgary, and then 3 weeks later was Monster Mash. 3 weeks later was Worlds. We had 6 weeks where we wanted to be great. And at the first show, no, we weren't like fully peeled out yet, but you had to do it that way so that I wouldn't die before Worlds.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want to come in stringy, and I didn't want to be dragging as like I wanted to come through strong till the very end. So the pacing was extremely important.
where, and that's true. Like you said, 6 weeks is that sweet spot, but I do still feel like, Sarah, we almost had to like dive in, dive out kind of approach where yours was just this slow kind of like marathon type process. And that is reflected in the fact that Sarah, we wanted to do a semi-aggressive gaining phase, if you want to call it that, coming out of 24. And we weren't 100% sure that you were even going to compete, or at least I wasn't 100% sure you were going to compete. I think in your head you knew you were going to.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do we get you as rapidly as possible recovered from a very challenging prep in 24 and then turn around and do it again to a high level in 25? We had to aggressively push weight up early to recover hormonally, spend time at a heavier weight, and then just because of the time of it all, not crash diet down, but be a little bit more assertive than maybe I would like to be, which still ended up being, if I'm correct, like 30-ish weeks of dieting for you, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
not a
I mean,
short,
I was starting prep this time last year.
yeah, yeah.
And
Which
that's why I was like, oh, Hell to the no. But I had, I think I was just worried, like, is he gonna prep me? Because I went and got my blood work because I will get that every year just to kind of take a look at it. And there were no issues, but I like mentally, there was no way I was gonna go into an off season. And that's what happens to me year after year competing is that I do have a lineup. And then by the time I get to Worlds, my body is shot. Like even this year, my best look wasn't Worlds. I was done.
Yeah.
And so but I remember Washington State and waking up and looking at my abs and
Mhm.
was like, I don't think I've ever seen those before. And standing next to bikini girls, and I'm just like, bye.
That was a
Sorry.
free
Sorry.
that was a
That's
freaky
aggressive.
look. Hey, you've earned
It
it.
was
You've earned
just
it.
great.
Mhm. And well, I mean, for reference, like we for a short period of time tried to diet you harder after that show, and we just
Yeah.
found that your body fought it more and more and more, and
Yeah,
we
it was
weren't
hard.
gaining a better look. So we pulled out of there. And you hit a 123 for one day, I
Hmm.
think right after Washington State, or maybe it was the week leading up to it, but
I thought
every
it was
other
like
way in.
close to Calgary. Calgary was a really
Yeah.
good look.
Yeah, Calgary as well. But most of that time when you were ready was like 125. So it's not
Yeah.
like you continued to lose pounds and pounds and pounds to refine your look. And Christine, that your first look to your second was a difference of what,
3.
£3?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's something, and Dan has reached much better conditioning than myself, so he can speak on this. But like when you are trying to lose that last couple pounds, it is so proportionally more important to go slow, but also like the amount that half a pound of difference at that stage can make on a look is just so dramatically different. Is
Oh,
is
that
that
was
what?
screaming to me that yes, like each half pound increment was so much more visually impactful at the very tail end there. I was like, is that going to be enough? Because my first stage weight was very, very, very low. And when I did my prep in 22, so I thought, oh, three more pounds? No, like I can't be that much heavier. It's not going to be enough. But
Mhm.
yeah, every little bit was very visually impactful at the end.
Yeah, and those numbers were that prior prep was what, 102 pounds your
Yep,
first time you competed, and then
correct.
Calgary where you won your pro card you were 108,
Yeah.
108, and then we dropped you to 105. Yeah, so 102 to 105 doesn't sound like that much of a change, but if you look at Christine's photos from the first time she prepped to this last season, she is a completely different human being. So it goes to show that stage weight doesn't have to change to absolutely change your physique. And yeah, that was fun to see. Just the amount of muscle that you had to have put on to make that change is very fun and a great testament to what can be done for somebody who's not 18 is the way I'll put it. You've got some stuff working against you. You're a working mother. So, yeah, you can still make dramatic progress. I mean, both of you can speak to that. Like Sarah, I mean, you've
Mhm.
said it multiple times. This was the best look that you've had. How many
Yeah.
years have you competed now? How many times have you competed?
Yeah. I don't even know, like probably 20.
Yeah. Yeah. So you
And
can always
and
still.
and you kept saying like it's not about the scale and just trying to get rid of all the things in my head that I've tried to control in the past or worry about. I mean, and it will be a process next time, but I'm just so much more self-aware. Like I want my body just to look big and ripped and healthy looking. Of course, I have to be shredded. I have to get very lean for it to look like that. But like I compare my physique to even, the year before in 2024. And I look at those pictures that I had sent you like 2 weeks before Worlds, and my muscles were hanging off my skin. And it just looked different. And my face was worn out this year. Like I looked like an old grandma by the end. I mean, I had bags that were I was done.
Mhm,
But my body just looked still big. And
mhm.
that's kind of the look I was hoping to see. But I was so stuck on numbers and hitting a number. And we would do that every time. I'd just be like, well, we need to get lower. We need to drop this to this number. And this is,
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I
so
would tell you, come back to the visuals. What do the
yeah,
visuals look like? Don't care
yeah,
about the scale at this point. We're too deep now. What are
yeah.
the visuals telling us?
And we get
So
so much in our
thanks,
head.
coach.
And Yeah, so we get our heads. And so, it is because we didn't want to bug you. And so it was so great to just have each other who we were both had the same timeline. And,
Mhm.
like we would check in every morning, we would do our walks really together. It just was so healthy and good in this sport to have that.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. No, it is funny because yes, for those that don't know, Sarah is a very enthusiastic person across all aspects, and coaching her sometimes is me being probably like I could be your son trying to tell
Yeah.
you like stop,
Yeah.
stop doing more, please listen to me is a fun experience as a coach. And I think we have that level of rapport at this point.
Yeah.
But that was that fear in like 24. It's like, I mean, this woman's been competing for forever. She's been to worlds multiple times. Like, who the heck am I to tell her like what you're doing now is wrong? You
Yeah.
it's like, oh gosh, how do we find that middle ground? And then as you go further and further, you build that trust. But yes, there was many times where it was much more of just like just breathe and like make it to the next day. Wait, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
Said thing happens.
And it did.
Then
Yeah.
it's like all right. Trust me next time when I say that that thing is going to happen.
Well, and I think that's what it was is one, you made yourself available. So, and I'm not one to like constantly be at someone to like get me out of this. Like I can deal with it for quite a while until I'm like really freaked out. But time and time again, you just kind of stuck with what it was. You picked your battles too. Like the things that I needed to do just to progress, you like held tight to. The things where you needed to let go, and we still do. That's how we negotiate things.
Mhm,
You let some things go, and that's for my well-being.
mhm,
And so I think that back and forth. And then you're right. Like we talk about, me and Christine would talk about all the time the unicorn wizard, because it's like I would say something, you would come back, and I just have to sit. And then the magic happened. And so, because there were many times where I wanted to, what I've done before is I didn't trust that situation. And so then I would take control of it.
mhm,
So I told myself too, and I told Christine this, like this was a test. And I had talked to her often about that. And it wasn't personal. It's just that I just have been wanting so bad to settle in somewhere and feel like you knew what you were doing. I know what I'm doing. And if we can figure it out. But I told her throughout, I'm like, I don't want to feel like this, but I feel like I still am testing this out.
mhm.
So it was nice to feel like after we had done this and we accomplished that, like, I don't have to worry. Like, I know what you
Mhm.
do now. So
Yeah. Yeah. Let's come back to, like you said, some of the things that I budged on. If you had to name a couple, what things for the listeners were you doing that maybe weren't the most optimal for prep, but things that you just felt like this is important to me, I must do this? Because at the end of the day, and I'm going to ask Christine you the same question. I think there's maybe a little bit less with you. Um, at the end of the day, both of you succeeded at a very high level. You both placed top five at WBF Worlds. You both placed highly in the top three at Monster Mash against probably a deeper lineup. What, 11 total women bodybuilders, right? Like huge lineups. You both placed very well. You took very different approaches to get there, and there were different concessions made along the way. So, Sarah, what are some of those things that you were like, look, coach, this is happening whether you like it or not, that maybe weren't the best on paper?
well, I don't know if it's like, it's more like just a general sense. Like, I love to train. And so I don't do rest days. Like, don't talk to me about rest days. Like, and I listen to so many people in this space talk about, well, I only train 5 days. I get that. That's great for you. But am I really going to get hurt if I do a dumpster day? Like, I need my extra day of just additional, because that's where I put my energy. Like, you don't have my job. You don't have to show up and deal with people. Well, yeah, you kind of do. But people's emotions all day long, very stressful, traumatic things. Like, I have used exercise and movement to manage that. And
Mhm.
so thank God we don't do 5 days. I have 6 days. There was a point in prep though where I had to let go and do 5 days because I was glad that you kind of pushed that because I would have done more, but it was hard and
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
needed those days. But Like you've been really flexible with the training. There's definitely certain things that I love to do that if I take them out, I'll be sad. And that's not going to help me progress. Like I have to leave that gym in a good space to do what I do as just a human the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So I think
It,
we negotiated that. I mean, I
yeah.
don't think I was that bad. I mean, I think the training
No.
thing is like a big deal for me, though. I
Yeah.
thrive on that. And even if it was just doing an extra day of abs, I would have asked for that extra day because I just know. And really, are you going to sit there and say, like, no, you can't? And then we're just pissed at each other? Like, I'll be pissed. And that's
Hmm.
not something to really like get on me about, I don't think. If I wasn't following my meal plan, if I was, like I am a bodybuilder. Like, this is just what I do. And so that was the big one for me. I mean, and then the steps, I wanted to probably do more steps and you pulled back steps, but my steps got really high and I love cardio.
Hmm.
And so you went back and forth with my bike. I love
Hmm.
my Peloton bike at night after work. Why? Because it's a stress management thing.
Hmm.
I feel great after that. And so I got the bike, but like when I'm riding the bike for 10 minutes, that pissed me off because I'm like 10 minutes on a bike. Like and I already know what's going to happen. And it's great because it works. And
Hmm.
I know like I'm going to have to pull back steps and I'm preparing myself that that's what you're going to do next. But I know it's so great to know how this is going to go and how successful I can be that I don't have to push so hard all the time. Some of it is
Hmm.
okay and some of it, meh.
Yeah. Well, like you said, the training is probably the biggest difference between you two. If we wanted to dive like into massive
Yeah.
differences in how you found success, like you said, you train very frequently. You both train to a high intensity with high
Yeah.
level precision. Like that's a standard. Anyone listening to this podcast, Dan, myself, Christine, Sarah, like you literally have to check that box to be a high level bodybuilder. That's
Yeah.
we're all training, we're not working out. But as a coach, you go into that situation, you say, okay, how do I allow this woman to train 6 days a week in a depleted state with certain movements that are very fatiguing? She trains to a very high intensity. We're not doing RIR 3, 4, RPE 6, none of that.
Yeah.
And how do I program that in such a way where we can disperse the volume across the week that she's not getting too much overlapping soreness and just absolutely wrecking her body? And that was and is a very fun challenge for me. I actually find that like that is one of my favorite things about this is those complex problems
Yeah.
because I get to sit and it's a puzzle and I move things around and I get it out on my whiteboard and I'm very visual with it. Meanwhile, you have Christine, who 4 days a week, upper lower, Wednesday's a rest day, weekends off, like very much standard in the split, modified to preferentially move volume where it needed to be for her physique, but it just dramatically different experiences there with the training. And also, you love variety, Sarah. You love
Mhm.
variety, you love changes, and you like that comes back to like, how do I program in such a way, just from the execution, the volume, the intensifiers, where you can literally drive yourself into the ground because you need to do that for yourself,
Yeah.
but make it in such a way that like physically you can recover from that. Where Christine is like, don't touch it. Do not change anything. And if you do, you have to tell me why, and I have to understand why.
Yeah.
So let's go to you, Christine, because that conversation has happened multiple times. You're like,
Yeah.
why did you do this? I don't like this. Explain yourself.
Yeah, creature of habit for sure, which my team robot teammate over there, Dan, can appreciate. Yeah, and just when something's working, why mess with it? Like, I've just we've been working together now for 3.5 years. So honestly, I can there's probably we can count like on one hand the difference in splits I've had. Like, there's very minimal changes. I just like to run things as long as I can until they will not work.
Mhm.
Um, I also just, I mean, no knock on the gym that I'm at, but I do have limited options as well in terms of equipment. So that's a thing. But like, I'm getting what I need from the environment that I'm in. If it's working, let's just leave it alone. Sometimes we've left things in too long, just trying to make it work. And that was just because I'm stubborn and I can figure it out. I can figure it out. But sometimes it's just not the right thing. So yeah, I do prefer that consistency. And even still now, 20 weeks post Worlds, like I'm still getting used to this split where I have Thursdays off. Like, what is that? It doesn't make sense. It's like, what day is it? I'm still confused sometimes. Just having a total and one leg day, like that's weird. We just ran the upper lower for so long and it was great and I loved it. And I love leg days. So I'm still in mourning of losing a leg day, but I mean, we did our post worlds assessment, physique assessment, and analysis. We know what we need to do differently and what we need to improve. So the volume and exercise selection moves accordingly. So I'm very logical in most of it. I don't want to say that Sarah's like overly emotional, but I'm just more like logic, rationale, explain it. If
Yeah.
you got a good reason, I'm not even going to question it. Let's just do what needs to be done. And I will find enjoyment out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And neither, based on results, neither one of those processes is better than the other, right? Like if we wanted to put in a bucket, Christine, like you said, you train by data, you look at your numbers, your check-ins are very much like I added 2 reps here. I maintained reps here. I added 0.25 pounds here. And like that's your litmus of progress. Where Sarah is very much if you could, and if I allowed you, you would instinctively just train by feel. What do I feel
Yeah.
like doing today? What movements work
100%.
well for me? And you
Yeah.
would still progress, right? You both can gain muscle in that sense. And it really is just a personality thing, in my opinion, of like who needs what system. Because at the end of the day, if you're checking off, like we said, adequate amount of volume, taken to an approximate of failure with enough like precision with your form, you do that long enough, you will progress. And I think it's funny here too, because there's two individuals that are very similar in two different camps, right? Sarah, I'm very much like you, where like there are days where I go in, I look at my plan, I'm just like, I'm not doing it. I don't have the bandwidth to do this movement today, but I still want to train hard and I find a different way. And I'm the only one here that doesn't have a pro card, so I'll say that. So maybe I should be more regimented. But then you've got Dan and Christine. I know you both are very much like, this is the number I'm going to hit today. Doesn't matter like if I think it's going to be a challenge, like without question, I will add 2 reps here. I will add 5 pounds here. I will execute to this level of precision, and it works for you guys because you find enjoyment in it. If I tried to be that level of accurate, it would add stress to my life. If Christine or Dan tried to be as flexible as me and Sarah, it would add stress to your life, right? So like it doesn't make it better or worse. No one's a better bodybuilder or a worse bodybuilder because of the approach you take. Literally, it doesn't matter until you stand on stage and then the judges judge you. Whatever you do to get there, honestly, I've come to the decision that it just doesn't matter that much as long as that foundation's been executed.
But
Um,
I think though, like a lot of what you're talking about though is knowing your client.
mhm.
Like giving them a piece of paper. Like I've never done this kind of training before in the last 10 years. You wouldn't have seen me do this training when I first started. I was doing bro splits because that's what I was told is what I needed to do. And I think building some confidence for myself, I don't always feel like that, but coming into this and knowing the areas of weaknesses that we had to work on, but then also like just maintaining the structure, like we could do this and I enjoy it so much more. And I will probably go back to a different style of training because I've done it all. But this is fabulous, like my whole life is calm.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. And for reference, yeah, Sarah's doing like a six day full body esque.
Yeah.
She said dumpster day in the podcast. For those that don't know, that was a day where it was literally like, what are the 3 muscles that you want to hit again? What
Yeah.
are the top 2 movements you have for each of those muscles? Just go do them. Like, just,
Yeah.
I don't care. That's your day that you need to have for yourself.
Yeah.
Where, yeah, a little bit more structure. But that is a structure. I guess I shouldn't say that, right? Like, that
Mhm.
is a structure that we have built for you. We have carefully looked at like the overlap of the muscles, what recovers quicker than not, what muscles need prioritized more frequently than others. And it is just it's a hybrid that's personalized to you, just like Christine's
Yeah.
program is personalized to her, just like Dan. I mean, you could talk about your training for forever. And I'd be interested to hear, right? We've talked about Christine and Sarah, like your training is very specialized to you, to the point where, like, when the last time I looked at it, when I was helping you with some certain things, it was like one set of this. And it's not because you need to do a top set, back off set like some other individuals. It was like, I need one set because my hamstrings will feel fatigued after that, and I have stimulated the muscle appropriately, and I can move on from that. Correct?
Yeah, I don't have too much that's one set, but yeah, the general sentiment's correct.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And you are very much like Christine, where it's like this movement is targeting this muscle, but also I'm targeting it in this way to stimulate these, this effect in the muscle, right? Like the way you do your leg press is to help with your adductor and your hack squats. And there's a lot of critical thinking that goes into it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean that the more fluid approach of Sarah or myself has any less thought. It just may seem a little bit more chaotic at times, right? So yeah, there's so many different threads that we could pull on, like we said. To Christine and Sarah specifically, do you feel like there's anything that we haven't covered? Because we're coming up on an hour. We have about 10 minutes left. I know we've been talking a lot. I want to see if Dan has any thoughts, threads that he wants to pull on or questions to ask. But do you feel like there's any aspects for the listeners specifically that you guys want to get across that we haven't talked about?
Just real quick, and we didn't talk about like the emotional piece and, traveling as a team and doing some things. I mean, the experience itself, and watching her, and I won't cry because I've already cried on this topic many times. But it's an emotional experience to take with these people, and especially with Christine, who's, she's a lifetime friend, and I hope we're on stage together because there's nothing like being out there and knowing your buddies out there with you. I mean, it is calming. It's just such an experience. So if you get a chance to do it, like with someone that is that tied into you, it's pretty amazing. Because all of that, like I will never forget that year, what happened last year for a variety of reasons, but just going through that was great with her.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, Dan, we've talked about it, like the Ontario show, staying on stage. Like, there's so few opportunities to
Yeah.
do that
Yeah.
with life, especially in that, I've got kids. We take time off to grow. People grow at different rates. Things happen. Like the possibility of not only like prepping in the same year, but having the similar timelines to be able to stand on stage with the handful of people that you care about
Yeah.
is a thing that doesn't happen often. I mean, for that
Yeah.
reason, like, Dan, you and I and Leroy have never all been on the same stage, right? And we've been friends for the last like 6, 7 years, and we've all prepped multiple different times in that time period, and it just hasn't lined up. So those are the experiences I think the more people compete, the more they look for, because that's what matters more than any trophy, award, or card that you might win along the way. Christine, would you
Yeah.
would you echo that? Or go ahead, Dan.
I'd say those limited opportunities that you get to spend with the people in this space. I mean, all of us are dispersed all over the country, different countries, and they're able to talk virtually, but you only get to spend so much time with your people in person
Yeah.
already. But to get to compete and step on stage and share the love of natural bodybuilding together is just, yeah, it's unique. Doesn't happen often, but when you get that opportunity, definitely embrace it. Um, I know I'm grateful for the times that I've had in that regards.
Yeah. And you never know when the next time you're going to compete is, right? Like, as
Yeah.
morbid as it might sound, like something could happen, health, family, something pulls you away from the sport. Somebody just loses interest in the sport. We've seen that, right? People just burn out, and like that's it. And you didn't know it was going to be your last prep. So yeah, not that I'm pushing more people to compete more frequently, because I think there is a component to, like, you got to make sure you're healthy. You got to make sure you do your due diligence to like grow in the off season. But I do find that some people, they wait and wait and wait because they want the perfect physique when they prep. And to some degree, you just got to get out there and like put in the judge's hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Christine, anything that you feel like we kind of skimmed over that you want to touch on to the listeners?
It could be probably a whole other podcast, but just we talked about our preps, but
Mhm.
also our recoveries were very different too. like the way that we recovered post show and the way that we both needed to. Again, we were very, very lean and we needed to restore health and do things in a certain way. And we both approached that very differently as well. So that's probably a whole nother topic.
Let's hit it. I think we have a little bit of time. Christine, you first. Why don't you talk through your experience with recovery, the approach we took, rate of gain, whatever aspects of that you want to talk about, and then we'll let Sarah talk through hers.
Sure. So for the listeners that don't know, you prepped me only the last 4 weeks of my first time competing. So I hadn't been through a full prep with you, but I'd been through a peaking process and I'd been through recovery before. So we kind of knew how this would go because what we did last time worked really well. So for those that don't know, like it was very slow and controlled. And so was this one because I am someone who does struggle to eat food. I do struggle with appetite. I am a numbers driven person. So I specifically ask you to give me very specific numbers to hit, and I will hit them like it's my next job. Similar to prep, very same mindset. I just have new numbers to hit that are much higher so that I can restore my health. It's not that I'm avoiding restoring health. I don't mind that. I know stage look is for a purpose and it's very transient and temporary, but I need those numbers to hit because like I said, I struggle with appetite. So it's still very slow and intentional. And actually the trajectory that we took out of 2025 competing was kind of just a mirror image. It was about half a pound a week, like maybe a little bit more, but like roughly half a pound a week. We're almost 20 weeks post and I am about 10, 11 pounds up. So it was, again, it's just slow and controlled to the letter. That's the way I like it. That's what I'm comfortable with. I've been a lot better than I was my last post show season in terms of just being a bit more flexible, having more meals out with my family, having date nights with my husband, not worrying so much about what recovery is like because this is the second time I've gone through it. So I kind of know what to expect. I'm not too shaken up about losing the lines and letting those things fade. Full disclosure, I am still struggling a little bit with digestion. I still haven't got my menstrual cycle back yet. So I know that those are very hard physiological processes on my body personally that I experienced last time. I am experiencing this time. And that is also why I don't compete as frequently as maybe some other people, because it does take its toll on me. So the recovery process is super important. I am very respectful of it, and I'm very grateful in the way that you have guided me through it both times because it's been really good for me and mentally and physically. Like I feel really good. There's just the last couple metrics that we need to box off to say we're completely recovered, but that's the way I need to do it, and that's not for everybody. Not everybody wants to go the low and slow approach on the way out.
Well, and before Sarah jumps in, I want to just kind of like state low and slow, but we dramatically increased your food, right?
Yeah.
Like this was not because I can already hear the criticism of people saying like, James, why are you doing a reverse diet? Reverse diets are bunk. You're hurting her. I mean, your lowest food was what, 1,600 calories, I believe, in prep.
Yeah, for maybe 2 weeks of a
Yeah. And
46-week prep.
and now you're at how many calories?
2,800.
Yeah, yeah. As a female who weighed 102 pounds on stage at one point and then 105 pounds on stage most recently, right? So you're eating nearly 3,000 calories. And that jump, obviously it wasn't in one big shot, but you went from 16 at one point in prep. We reversed you into worlds to around 1,800, I believe. And then the first was like 2,200 calories you're eating from the hop. So it's not like here's 5 grams of carbs for this week, here's 10 for next week. It's I'm throwing food at you and your body's just absorbing it. And I'm sure people saw those visuals and they're like, she's 8 weeks post show and she still has glute striations. What's he doing? He's ruining her. And meanwhile, I'm just like, please eat more. Like, please go upscale.
And I have a little bit of stats for that because I know people's brains go that way. They're like, why are you trying to stay so lean? I'm not. Like, I have numbers. By week 3, we were at 2,450 calories. Week 3 post show, plus
That's
still a
crazy.
2,800 calorie refeed once a week.
Yeah.
So this was not like poverty macros just to go, a reverse diet. It wasn't at all.
hmm Yeah. Your body just literally absorbed all that food. And I would have to hope has made some great progress as a result of that. Because, I mean, like you said, 2,400 calories and a 2,800 calorie refeed is what the average size male probably would maintain on. And you were just half a pound a week growth. Like it's impressive. And that's the difference too of like your body was doing some pretty crazy stuff and can metabolize food at a crazy rate. So yeah, it's been a learning process. But we also know too on that last piece with the hormones, we know prior what weight that came about. And if all the rest of the processes have been similar, we know that we're kind of knocking on the door of that and it should be happening here rather soon. And throughout this whole process, we have seen the qualitative indicators of improved health. We just haven't got that one last piece.
Oh, and that came about. All the biofeedback was great, like within probably even less than a month. Like sleep was back on track, energy during the day was fine, like everything else came online. This is just that the last little piece. And yes, I am knocking on the door of the body weight that is probably going to make that happen. So
Yeah, yeah. Sarah, let's talk through your experience. What did you need to do to kind of kick off this off season?
I needed to just escape from bodybuilding for a little bit.
hmm
And our relationship, like me and Christine's, like she knows, I had to like just not do check-ins every day. And I just needed to be and eat and have dates and get back to being a mom and like as fast as I possibly could. And that meant I get to eat whatever I want and pancakes and cereal and Lucky Charms and all the things. So that's what happens to me is I have a very hard time controlling food after shows. We did really good last year, and I think we actually did okay this year too. But I will tend to put on like 10 to 15 pounds fairly quickly. So my macros are like where Christine's were a month after a show. I don't get to eat nearly as much as she gets to eat right now. I think you're up like 400 more calories than I am right now. So
hmm
yeah, I mean, I just have to take a break from it. And I came back and I will always come back. I love this, but I emotionally and mentally just need to separate from bodybuilding. And I knew when I was done with Worlds that that's what I needed to do. And I was done and I was happy and I was ready for like this off season. I was just ready for a different place. So I just gained weight really, really fast. So we added some calories, and I think you added stuff just because I continued to have cravings and I was eating outside of my macros. And so we just kind of kept bumping up food so that I could manage it a little bit better. And it's only been like probably the last 3 weeks where I've controlled my hunger,
hmm
where I felt
hmm
like I've totally controlled that. And I feel good. But it's like I'm starting to drop weight again. So now I'm like, okay, this is cool because I'll probably get more food again. Because if it's present, it bothers me because I felt like I was in prep still weeks after the stage.
Yeah.
And that's not a fun place for people to be in. And everybody, I'm sure, has their own experiences around that. But I've never struggled so hard as I did this year post prep. And it's because I brought my best package and I knew that. So going through it was like there's a reason why I'm struggling so hard this year because normally I'd like binge a day, like eat the things I wanted to eat or a couple days and then I just get back right back on track and I didn't do that this time. It was hard. But now I'm
Yeah.
settled. And actually like I'm kind of hopeful I hit into like 155 and because it's I hope I get big, like I'm okay with it now and
hmm
things feel good. So I just am
hmm
thankful for that and yeah.
Yeah, and the nutritional approaches in those instances, Christine's one where it's like, all right, we can predict she's going to gain X amount of weight. I can bump calories up. It's very mathematical, right? I'm adding, 1,000 calories across the week. I know what that's going to do to her body. With you, like you said, it's kind of like I'm listening to the feedback, the subjective, the qualitative, your hunger cues, the fact that like you're still having all these issues, and it's physiologically maybe your weight is higher than what I want it to be for this phase. So I don't need to add food from a weight perspective, but I need to add food so that you can work through the satiety needs, the craving
Yeah.
needs, and to give you a feeling of success. This is the psychology of it, right? If you have an athlete, for anyone listening, this is the approach I take at least. If somebody is consistently eating outside their macros, I do them no favor by lowering their macros, especially, or by forcing them to stay with that, because it's building like a negative feedback loop. I failed, I didn't hit my macros, and you just keep kind of like beating your head against the wall. Where if I increase the macros, at least for a short term, and you can say successfully, I did this, even if it means your weight goes up temporarily, you build that confidence in yourself again, and you allow their body to kind of work through whatever they're working through, right? Because at some point, those satiety cues will become normalized. It might be at a heavier body weight than what you had written on paper, but that might be necessary. And then in that case, like you, we sit, we allow your body to start to come down, tighten up, recomp, whatever you want to say. That's your body saying, okay, I'm ready for more fuel or food. And then you can bump it back up until you find over time what the true maintenance is. And it's just a slower process. Instead of being linear, it's very reactive
Yeah.
to what's going on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
Yeah, fun stuff. Fun stuff. All right, Dan, anything you'd like to close on? Anything you feel like watching from the outside in, you kind of like noticed with these two wonderful women athletes?
I think maybe just conclude it with what are the next plans for both of you? You know,
Mm.
currently in the midst of an off season. What are you thinking? Start with Christine.
It's very much to be determined. As I alluded to, my physiology gets hit really hard when I diet down that much. So recovery is number one, and then improvements are number two. There is absolutely no way I'm putting myself through that process, getting to that level of conditioning without having notable improvements. And so I'm very much committed to, like last time, it's like I'll sit in the building as long as I need to sit in the building phase. Ideally I would love to compete next year. That would be amazing. But if we can't justify it based on physique progressions, I'm not handcuffed to 2027. It would be great. Um, but if that's not in the cards, then I'm very much willing to accept that. Um, I had an idea in mind that I would love to compete in 2029 because I will be 50 in 2029, but we'll see. It's going to be somewhere between 2027 and 2029, depending on how much progress I can make, what lifestyle, life context makes available to me in terms because it's expensive. Want to do
Mhm.
some cool shows. I would love to travel again. This was the first time I've traveled for competing, and it wasn't very cheap. So, there's lots of factors, but progress, first recovery, then making actual physique progress is going to be the deciding factor for the most part.
Would you say you're not quite fully recovered from your season last year? We're sitting at
My
eight
bio,
months since.
yeah, my biofeedback feels tremendous. Like everything on, like the way I feel subjectively day to day, outside of not having resumed my menstrual cycle quite yet. And I mean, I've had a history of digestive issues for quite a long time, even before getting into bodybuilding. So that's always something that's kind of sorry, coach, something we're just kind of managing in the background. Anyways, but yeah, I feel great. My training is going awesome. I'm not, knock on wood, nothing's broken. Like things are rolling. That's just the only marker, if we're being very physiologically specific about it, that it is
Yeah,
not yet back up to par.
makes sense. Sarah?
Sarah?
Yeah. I am going to be 50 next year, so I am definitely going to compete. But I want to go internationally, and I do kind of want to look at getting my IFBB Pro card. So I want to do like two shows and get out. Like I want to experience travel. But I've always had that IFBB in my back pocket since I started. And that goes back to like competing in the NPC and like I like to collect things and I think I could do it. It would be a challenge. So, and I want to be open about where I compete next year because I really want to be on stage with more women. So hopefully people will also join or show up out of the area because I would love to leave the States to compete. I just want to compete with other women on stage.
When you say internationally, where do you have thoughts in mind?
Yeah, the UK I've thought about. I would love to go over there and um I'm sorry, but I saw Dubai and WNBF, but I just don't think there'll be bodybuilders there. I just want to go to Dubai. So but I don't have any plans for that. I'm just going to kind of sit and see what happens, but that would be just an amazing just experience, I think, to do it. And like my son graduates in a couple years and I have to be present for that. So next year is really my year and hopefully everything will go okay. And then I can and I have a long off season for me, historically. So I'm excited about that because I know I will do well. So.
Mhm. Yeah, I've been peer pressuring them a little bit, looking at UK and Denmark, just based on the experiences we've had over there, as some of the athletes we've seen come out of that region,
Yeah.
and some of like what we know is coming in the future, like the NBW International growing, the Danish Federation's growing. They'll be adding another show to their roster. Lee putting on the DFBA Global in the fall. Like, there's a lot of good things happening over
Yeah.
there. And when we look at like how do we get the best female bodybuilders to compete, except for like worlds level, like Natty, Natural Olympia, WMBF Worlds, we got lucky with Calgary, there being lots of amateurs at least. There's not many shows where you can guarantee there's going to be a high level of bodybuilders on the women's side. But in the UK, there seems to be a higher percentage chance.
Yeah.
Same with Denmark and some of those other European countries. So it's kind of like if you wanna compete with the best, you got to go to them a little bit.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So if anyone's listening and they want to sponsor Team ATP to go international, I am accepting sponsorship money at this time. So, all right, guys. Well, I appreciated this conversation. I think it was good to hear kind of like behind the scenes. Obviously, we've had similar conversations, but it's always good to just kind of like open it up and let it flow. Dan, it's always good to chat, to have you on as kind of like the counterbalance to some of my chaos. And for the guys and girls that are still listening to this episode, we appreciate you guys as always. We couldn't be doing it without you. We wouldn't have a platform without you. So if you like the episode, give it a like, subscribe, follow, share, all the good stuff. Follow Christine, follow Sarah on Instagram. We will put them, tag this on Instagram so you guys know where to find them because we didn't cover that in the episode. And I will see you guys in the next one.